Anfield awaits Norwich City. Liverpool, the opponents for the Canaries in the fourth round of the FA Cup. David Wagner's side finding a way past Bristol Rovers. It took a replay and it took the second 45 minutes of that replay to get it done. But 3-1 winners eventually. Certainly made tough work of what should have been a comfortable win in that first game, but wasn't to be. A midweek trip on a truly freezing night, I'm sure, wasn't the plan for David Wagner, but can't take it away from those lads. A good win in the end away to Bristol Rovers, and one that will calm the nerves slightly of some fans. It was a really strong side actually put out by David Wagner. I was really interested to see how he approached this one. One would assume that an away game to Liverpool is pretty high up on David Wagner's list. He and Jurgen Klopp, of course, best mates. Wagner was Jurgen Klopp's best man at his wedding. He spoke on the TNC podcast when we interviewed him, just how much him and Jurgen get on. So the chance to face his Liverpool side, I think, would have been one that excited him greatly, and he will have that opportunity, I'm sure, when we see the two respective starting 11s on paper. We might take a few deep breaths, but we will have that opportunity to travel to Anfield, and of course that is something we should savour and look forward to, I think. Bristol Rovers did take the lead. Before I get into that, let's mention that starting 11. Gabriel Sara was in the lineup. Johnny Rowe, Adam Idah, Kenny McLean, Sam McCallum, Jack Stacey. So you've got, probably half of that starting 11 were players that you would expect to start in the Championship. Stronger than I expected. Of course, no Josh Sargent. That was noted in David Wagner's press conference that he wouldn't be risking his fitness. But the likes of Sara and Rowe, I was surprised to see start. So it showed the kind of mindset that Wagner was taking into this one tonight. Bristol Rovers took the lead through McCormick in 20 minutes. And I must say that first 45 minutes was sadly very predictable and a level of performance we've seen far too often this season. And at that point, you're thinking, goodness me, I mean, if we were to be knocked out of the FA Cup by Bristol Rovers, granted, it's not the kind of upset that we've seen in the past, like Luton Town when they were in the conference beating us and we were in the Premier League, but to lose to lower league opposition when you've got a stronger, a relatively strong side out would be fairly poor considering the form that we've been in this season. So you go at half time 1-0 down, your mind is starting to rush to some pretty bad places. Thankfully came out in the second half, looked far better, definitely the better team in that second half. I must say, a player that I've maybe been slightly critical of this season, I think rightly so for his league performances, but the two showings against Bristol Rovers I've been really impressed with, and that's from George Long. I think we've always been fairly blessed with goalkeepers. We've also got some looks to be exciting young goalkeepers in the ranks as well. But George Long has been good in these last couple of games, so well done to him. And he kept out some good Bristol Rovers opportunities. And if it wasn't for him, then this may well have been going to extra time this evening. And that's certainly not what we wanted. So good to just get it done in the 90 minutes. Gabriel Sara poking home from a really nice Sam McCallum shot, and he was very good tonight. And I think there's real competition in that left-back role now between McCallum and Yanulis. So well done to him. The one thing I would say about McCallum, and with negatives do come positives, because I think he's, when he does gamble on phase of play going forwards, he can cut play out really high up the pitch. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and he does look like he's dawdling somewhat to get back. But McCallum was really good tonight. Adam Idah gets a penalty, tucks that home. Not the most comfortable of penalties. The Bristol Rovers keeper, Cox, did get a couple of hands on it, but the power of Idah's strike put it into the back of the net, and Kenny McLean wrapped it up late on to add to his impressive season so far this season. He was playing slightly more advanced for the majority of the game tonight. It was Gibson and Bart that started. Bart picked up an injury. He got replaced. McLean dropped in. Nunez came on. So a centre-back injury to Danny Bart, and his career at Norwich City so far certainly hasn't gone to plan. So job done for Norwich, and I must say it was one of those games where, look, am I happy we won the game? Yes, of course I am. I always want to see Norwich City win, and I will enjoy that feeling. And for the 800 nutters that travelled to Bristol this evening, I'm sure that was a really fun evening. Well, certainly in that second half, probably a new ground for many. 3 goals for Norwich, brilliant. I think this next week is really important, and we will see. I feel like I've said this a few times this season, but I feel like we will really see where Norwich are at. West Brom at home, Leeds United away from home. 2 sides in the playoffs at the moment. We played West Brom on Boxing Day and were well beaten despite the scoreline only being 1-0. Leeds, of course, we took a 2-goal advantage against earlier on this season and threw that away. So bad memories against both of those teams. A 3-1 victory against the mid-table League One side is pretty much par. I think anything below that you start to look at. My tweets at half-time, I think, I don't regret posting them at all. It does still feel as if this season has a degree of predictability to, and it does feel as if, much like last season when we were kind of scrambling on to the hope and the desperation of playoffs, but you always kind of knew throughout that season that we weren't quite good enough. It does feel as if it's the same this time around. If we were to go and pick up, let's say, 4 points against West Brom and Leeds, a draw and a win, whichever way round that may come, then maybe we can start to have adult discussions around whether it is the right decision for David Wagner to lead this team forwards. I'm still getting slight contradictions, and this is the concern for me. And whether you like David Wagner and you want him to stay, or you're not a fan of David Wagner and you want him to go, let's just look at the facts here and what we've heard from Ben Napper. Ben Napper said a few different things. He said he wanted to lower the age profile of this squad. Now, that certainly hasn't happened with incomings, but we'll get onto that shortly. And also that he wanted to play this kind of free-flowing, fluid, attacking style of football. Well, that certainly hasn't happened. And the reason that we've been able to firm up the defence a little bit, and granted it couldn't have got any worse, so improvement is a bit of a backhanded compliment, but we have improved in that area, and it has rewarded some points, but that's meant we've sat back and really soaked up pressure against Southampton and Hull, and to an extent against Bristol Rovers this evening. And the age profile is a really interesting one, because one would assume in a FA Cup replay against lower league opposition, there is an opportunity, even if not starting, but to bed in some of those younger players on the bench. Well, actually this evening, David Wagner opted to put 2 goalkeepers on the bench in Angus Gunn and Caleb Anson. Granted, Caleb Anson is a younger player, so I guess you've got the youth profile there. But the likes of Pedro Lima and Ken Abbo, who, 2 players that have been catching the eye of those following the youth teams this season, left off the bench. The likes of Puemezwa Boheta, kind of make the bench. If we were serious, and as a self-funding club, you have to be serious about developing youth, because they are the future year's incomings. Then you would have hoped that tonight was a really good opportunity to get some of those younger players in. I also get the argument that if we want to progress, then you need your best players and you need experience. I just feel like there could have been a bit of a better balance there, and that just points in one direction to me, and that direction is one of that you've got a sporting director I don't think has complete faith in the head coach, and you've got a head coach that's probably accepted his fate and knows that come the end of this season his job will be no longer at Norwich City. And I think that's one of the big reasons why we're not investing or going too hard at this January transfer window. Norwich are 2 points off the playoffs. If they wanted to chuck some cash at it, it's still a great opportunity to break into that top 6. I think everyone knows at the football club deep down, whether they want to admit it or not, that they already know the decision that will happen maybe this season, can't see it, but certainly this summer. And the season of 24-25 will be one where David Wagner won't be the head coach of Norwich City. But let's take the positives. Good to see Idah, Sara and McLean on the score sheet tonight. Norwich City progress into the 4th round of the FA Cup. We can have these bigger decisions and discussions later on in the week, but it's West Brom now attention turns to. I think the reason I thought that first game was so important to win, you've played a full, hard blown 90 minutes away at Bristol, in freezing cold conditions. It's a tight turnaround now to Saturday 3:00. You've got 65 minutes under the belt of Johnny Rowe. You've got Gabriel Sara, who's played the full 90. Kenny McLean, that's played the full 90. Jack Stacey, who played 90 minutes as well. Players that will be playing on Saturday that have played a fairly unnecessary 90 minutes in midweek. But don't let that cloud your optimism. Who knows? Wembley, just around the corner. Liverpool awaits Norwich City. Let me know what you thought of the game down in the comment section below, and I'll catch you for plenty more content this week as we build up to West Brom at Carrow Road on Saturday. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.